She was kicked in the head during training, left bleeding in the dirt. But minutes later, 3 generals rolled up in black SUVs, and within hours, the entire unit was shut down. What happened next would change everything, and Amelia would become a name whispered in every barracks. The sun punished the field. Not a glow, not a warmth, punished. The red Georgia clay baked under it until it rose in waves that warped the air. Every breath was grit. Every boot left scars that the wind erased before the next step. Amelia moved with the line. Rifle up, bayonet forward. The dummies didn't bleed, but the orders demanded they be stabbed like enemies. Young voices screamed as they thrust. Some screamed too loud, trying to prove they belonged. Amelia never screamed. Her strikes were quiet, exact, clean. In, out, back in position. She had learned in places far worse that noise did not kill. Precision did. Her watch ticked on her wrist. The glass was cracked in a spiderweb pattern, each line catching sunlight. The time was always slightly wrong, but she wore it anyway. That watch had stopped once in a desert half the world away, when shrapnel had blown dust into her veins. It had restarted after she pieced its guts together with a pin and patience. It never ticked quite right again. She didn't need it to. It was a reminder that even when time broke, you could carry on crooked. Whispers clung to her since day one. Doesn't belong, show off. Thinks she's tougher than the men. She heard them but let them pass. She'd heard worse, louder, in places where whispers didn't matter because mortars were already screaming. Rollins didn't whisper. He barked always at her. His neck bulged over his collar. His eyes mean. His tone a rasp of gravel dragged through a rusted pipe. He watched her too close, waited for mistakes that never came. His rage needed a spark. She refused to give it. The drills went longer than sense. Heat pressed into skulls, pulled water from lungs. A recruit near her faltered. He staggered, knees wobbling, his bayonet drooping like his body had forgotten it was steel. Amelia caught him before he fell, a hand on his shoulder, the other steadying his rifle. You're overheating, she said softly. Breathe through your nose, slow. Count. His eyes focused, finding her calm like a rope in floodwater. Yes, ma'am. I'm not your ma'am. Just stand up straight. You'll be okay. She had done this before on roads lined with smoke and fire, pulling soldiers up who thought they'd fall forever. The medic in her never left, no matter what patch she wore. The blur came from the side. A boot, fast, sharp. The impact burst white across her vision. Her skull rang like struck metal. Warm wetness spilled across her temple, down her cheek, into her jawline. The world froze. Recruits halted mid-strike, bayonets suspended in air. Instructors stared. Silence dropped heavy, louder than commands ever had. She swayed, catching herself on instinct. Her hand pressed her head. It came back red. Drops fell, dark against the clay. They looked like the black dots painted on the dummies' throats. Her broken watch ticked off beat. Tick, tick, skip. She locked her knees. She would not fall. She lifted her chin and fixed her eyes on Rollins. He stood firm, chest out, the faintest smirk at his mouth. The kick had been no accident. The message was carved into the dirt between them. You don't belong. Amelia breathed through the ringing in her skull. I'm fine, she said aloud. Not for him, but for the recruit staring at her. For the boy she'd steadied, who still breathed in counts of 4 because she'd told him to. The radio crackled. A lieutenant, pale, frantic, spat words into the mic. Incident at bayonet course. Immediate response required. Minutes later, the hum of engines thundered from the gate. 3 black SUVs tore through the dust. Tires chewed gravel. Dust clouds swirled up like smoke. The recruit straightened to attention without being told. Even Rollins stiffened, though his jaw clenched. The doors opened. 3 generals stepped out, stars flashing, eyes carved from stone. Their boots struck gravel with the sound of thunder rolling low and close. Amelia wiped blood from her cheek. She stood tall, the broken watch ticking wrong, the dusty road carrying the sound of power closing in. The field held its breath. Everyone knew. Nothing about this day would be ordinary again. The sun blazed, but it was nothing compared to the heat rolling off the 3 generals. Their silence weighed heavier than artillery. No one spoke. The recruit stood frozen, rifles trembling in clenched hands. Amelia steadied her breathing. The blood still dripped, tracing her jawline like a signature she couldn't erase. She refused to wipe it again. Let them see. The lieutenant stepped forward, voice shaking as he pointed. Generals, this is Sergeant Amelia Cruz. She was assaulted by Staff Sergeant Rollins. Harris, the hawk-eyed general, cut his stare into Rollins. "Explain." Rollins swallowed, shoulders broad but brittle. "Sir, I was testing her resolve. Instilling discipline." Harris raised a hand. The word discipline died in Rollins' mouth. Discipline does not come from cowardice disguised as instruction. The second general, a woman with hair pulled tight, turned to Amelia. "Step forward," Amelia obeyed. Each step cracked against gravel, echoing in the silence. She felt every recruit watching, their eyes clinging to her composure. She reported clearly without drama, the stumble, her steadying hand, the sudden kick. Each fact laid bare. Rollins shrank with every word. His smirk dissolved, leaving only panic in the twitch of his hands. The third general ordered aides forward. Cameras clicked. Pens scratched. Document everything. Eyewitness accounts. Every recruit, every instructor. Whispers rippled among the soldiers. For the first time, their fear tilted, not toward the instructors, but toward the truth being recorded. Harris's gaze shifted from Rollins to the wider field. Effective immediately, this unit is suspended. No drills, no movement. No one leaves until our investigation is complete. Gasps spread. Rollins opened his mouth, but Harris silenced him with a hand. Not a word. Amelia's wound burned as a medic dabbed antiseptic. She didn't flinch. She wasn't thinking of pain. She was thinking of the recruits' eyes. The system had finally looked back at them. She could see it in their stares. Hope was a thing with weight. The sun dipped, shadows stretched, and the yard, once a place of noise and cruelty, stood in stunned quiet. The generals had cracked it open. Morning brought tension sharp as barbed wire. Whispers traveled faster than boots on gravel. 3 generals had shut down the unit, everyone knew. The question was what came next. Amelia entered the tent, uniform crisp. Blood dried to a faint mark near her hairline. Her broken watch ticked against her wrist, the sound offbeat, like a drum practicing rebellion. She sat across from an aide with a clipboard. "Start from the beginning," he said. She did. Hour, minute, sequence, word. She didn't embellish. She didn't soften. Precision was her weapon now. The generals listened, eyes like scalpels carving through lies before they could form. Rollins was brought in. His jaw clenched, hands twitching. He tried the same defense. "I was testing resilience." "Discipline," Harris cut him off, "comes from respect. You violated that code. Full stop." The tent held silence again, but it was no longer oppressive. It was judgment. Even recruits peeking from the observation corner felt it. The system turning on itself. Hours stretched. Every recruit gave statements. Every aide scribbled. Amelia's account never shifted. Consistency built its own gravity. Private Stanton, the one she had steadied, approached her quietly afterward. "Sergeant, thank you." "If you hadn't, this isn't about me," she said, hand firm on his shoulder. "It's about the system learning it has to do better." Later, the generals gathered. Harris's gaze fixed on Amelia. "You did more than endure a strike. You exposed a failure in command. Your composure is noted." She nodded. Praise wasn't her goal. Integrity was. But that night in the medical tent, her empty wallet slid from her pack as she changed. She picked it up, thumb brushing its frayed edge. She'd once given everything inside it to a boy in a ruined village. Every bill, every coin. It had been empty ever since. She kept it as a reminder. Survival costs, but you pay anyway. The general's words echoed in her head. Courage wasn't about surviving the battlefield. It was about standing in a room where power wanted you silent and refusing. The field buzzed with uneasy order. Recruits drilled cautiously. Instructors barked less, their voices measured as though every syllable might be recorded. The generals hovered like storm clouds. Amelia walked among them, her cracked watch ticking in stubborn rhythm. Her presence pulled eyes, steadied hands. She showed recruits how to correct posture without shouting, how to strike with discipline instead of rage. Her calm became contagious. Rollins watched from the fence, stripped of authority. He muttered, "Too soft." But no one echoed him. His words carried no gravity anymore. Amelia adjusted a recruit's stance. Control isn't brute force. It's balance. You win by keeping your feet under you. The young soldier nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. Others followed her lead. Respect spread quietly, a current under the noise, but not everyone welcomed it. Resistance crawled in shadows. A drill pushed hard that afternoon, harder than usual. One recruit collapsed mid-strike. Amelia rushed to him. His skin was clammy, his pulse erratic. This wasn't just heat. She looked at his canteen. Half empty, but the water tasted metallic. Wrong. Her eyes narrowed. This wasn't exhaustion. It was something else. She stood slowly, gaze sweeping the yard. Recruits murmured. Instructors shifted. Somewhere in the dust, Sabotage was hiding, waiting for her to trip. The broken watch ticked louder, its cracked face flashing in the sun. The supply crate smelled wrong. Wood soaked in metal, faint and sharp. Amelia lifted the lid slowly, the broken watch on her wrist ticking off beat. Inside lay sealed canteens, a vial wrapped in greasy paper, and a folded memo with her name typed across the top. Too neat, too obvious, like someone wanted the recruits poisoned. Someone wanted the blame to fall on her. She pressed her palm flat against the crate, breathing through the burn in her skull. Outside boots shuffled. Voices, low, careless. She slipped behind the tent flap and waited. The road was dusty, the night air heavy, stars sharp enough to cut. The canvas stirred. A man stepped in. Sergeant Hyde, quartermaster's assistant. His fingers moved fast over the crate, too practiced to be innocent. Amelia stepped from the dark. "Leave it," she said. Hyde froze, then smiled like they'd met over coffee. "Sergeant Cruz couldn't sleep?" Her voice stayed flat. "What's in the vial?" "Electrolytes," he shrugged. "You know how recruits are." She didn't blink. "And the memo with my name?" He straightened, studied her cracked watch, then leaned closer. "Tracks vanish in dust, Sergeant. Stories don't. Which one do you think will last?" She let silence answer for her. He pushed past, but not before muttering, "You've redecorated a house that didn't ask for new furniture. That never lasts." She collected the vial, memo, and one canteen into evidence bags. Then she walked the dusty road along the perimeter. Private Stanton appeared at her side, whispering, "We thought we were weak. Now I know. We were being set up." Before she could reply, headlights swept across the trees. A vehicle blocked the track. Hyde's voice slid out from the dark. "Evening, Sergeant." "Get in." But flashlights burst on from the other side, MPs and aides, and the tall general. His voice was low thunder. "Sergeant Cruz, do you have something to show me?" Amelia held up the bag with the vial. "Yes, sir." Morning broke hard, heat sharp as knives. The field buzzed with rumors. Recruits drilled in silence, eyes darting toward Amelia. The evidence spread like wildfire. Someone wanted the unit poisoned. Someone wanted her gone. The generals convened in the tent, aides scribbling. Hyde sat stiff in the corner, jaw set, eyes sly. Rollins leaned against the wall, pale but smirking like he knew the rules better than anyone else. "Present your findings," Harris said. Amelia laid the bags on the table. The water was tainted. The memo was planted. Hyde was caught with both. Hyde's laugh was thin. "Planted by me or by her? Maybe Cruz carried them in herself. Isn't that convenient?" "The hero finds the poison." Murmurs stirred. Harris raised a hand. Silence cut them. His hawk-like eyes drilled into Hyde. "We'll test the samples. We'll know soon enough," Rollins finally spoke. "Sir, with respect, she's been trouble since she arrived. You've seen how recruits orbit her. That kind of influence is dangerous." Amelia met his gaze. "Influence isn't dangerous. Abuse is." The tent tightened with the weight of it. Even recruits outside leaned closer, trying to breathe in the exchange. The third general, quieter than the rest, leaned forward. "We suspend Hyde, we hold Rollins. No drills without oversight. Sergeant Cruz will continue instruction until this investigation is resolved." Hyde's smirk cracked. Rollins' jaw twitched. Amelia didn't react. Her broken watch ticked wrong but steady. That night, recruits whispered around her tent. One left a note under her cot. Just 4 words scrawled in pencil. "They want you gone." She folded it into her empty wallet. He didn't speak at first. Just stood in the frame of the flap, the rising sun at his back. His shadow fell long across her cot. "You think this ends with you?" Rollins said finally. "It doesn't. The system spits out people like you. Too clean, too honest. You won't last." Amelia kept her voice calm. "You're here without clearance." "That's noted," he laughed, low and bitter. "Notes don't matter. Stories do. They'll tell yours the way they want. Then I'll make sure they hear mine first." He stepped closer, but Stanton's voice cut through from outside. "Sergeant Cruz, you're needed at the yard." Rollins slipped back into the light, vanishing before Stanton entered. The boy looked shaken. "Drills. The generals asked for you. The yard was already alive when she arrived." Recruits lined up, eyes sharp, fear less visible now. Harris and the other generals stood with clipboards. "Sergeant Cruz," Harris said. "Demonstrate the drill." She moved through bayonet strikes, precise, steady, teaching with calm words instead of shouts. The recruits followed, their rhythm clean. Respect spread faster than fear ever had. But then one recruit faltered again. Not Stanton this time. A girl, pale, sweat pouring. Amelia caught her as she fell. Pulse weak, canteen empty. She smelled the faint metallic tang again. Another tampered supply. The generals barked for MPs. Chaos rippled. Rollins was nowhere visible. Hyde smirked as MPs dragged him back to holding. Amelia crouched by the girl, whispering, "Stay with me." "Count your breaths." The broken watch ticked wrong but fierce, and then the loudspeaker crackled overhead. A voice cold, official. "All personnel to report. Effective immediately, this unit is dissolved." Gasps, shouts, confusion. The recruits stared at her as if she had the answer. The yard fractured. Recruits shouted questions. Instructors whispered. MPs tightened grips on rifles. Dust rose like smoke. Amelia stood still. The broken watch clicked. "Tick, skip, tick. Who ordered dissolution?" she asked. Harris shook his head, jaw tight. "Command above us, political." The female general stepped in. "This isn't about drills anymore. Someone wants the truth buried." Amelia looked at the recruits, faces young, eyes wide, futures hanging. She thought of the empty wallet in her pack, of giving everything once and walking away with nothing but survival. She wasn't ready to give these kids up the same way. "We can't let this vanish," she said. Harris's eyes narrowed. "Meaning?" "Meaning," Amelia said, "I'll testify. I'll write it down. I'll make sure every recruit here gives their account before they scatter. Dust can erase tracks, but words last." Stanton stepped forward, trembling but loud. "I'll speak too." "We all will." The recruits murmured agreement. One by one they nodded. The generals exchanged glances. The quiet one finally spoke. "Then so be it. If they dissolve us, we'll leave them with a record they can't erase." Rollins, shackled now, snarled from the sidelines. "Records burn. Paper burns." Amelia lifted her cracked watch, the glass flashing in the sun. "Not all of them. Not before the story runs." She turned toward the dusty road beyond the gate, where footprints faded but stars still marked the sky. The choice lay clear. Scatter in silence or carry the story. She chose the story. The sirens wailed. Not sharp, not panicked. Low and steady, the kind that says, "Something bigger than you is coming and you'd better not be standing in the wrong place when it arrives." Engines growled beyond the gate. Dust rose in great plumes, swallowing the horizon. 3 vehicles, unmarked, black as oil, rolled fast down the road. The recruits froze. Rifles half raised without orders. Instincts clashing with discipline. Amelia stood still in the center of the yard. Her broken watch ticked unevenly, its cracked glass catching the light like a warning flare. The time was wrong, but the moment was exact. Harris turned toward the gate, jaw locked. "This wasn't in the briefing." The female general's voice was clipped, cold. "Those aren't ours." The vehicles tore through the barrier, metal shrieking as the wooden arms snapped. They skidded to a halt in the middle of the yard. Dust rolled across the recruits, choking, blinding. Doors opened in sync. Men in dark uniforms stepped out, not army, not marked. Their boots polished but soulless. At their center, a man in a gray suit climbed down from the lead vehicle. Clean, precise. The kind of man who had never sweated on a training field in his life. He adjusted his tie as if the air itself needed straightening. "Generals," he said, voice smooth as glass. "This unit is dissolved. You've been informed." Harris's stare could have broken bone. "Under whose authority?" "Above yours." The man's smile was small, cruel. "Above mine even." "The order stands." Behind Amelia, recruits shifted, unease crawling their spines. One whispered, "They can't do this." Another muttered, "They just did." Amelia said nothing. She wiped dust from her cheek, smearing the faint line of dried blood that still marked where Rollins had struck her days earlier. She felt the weight of the empty wallet in her pocket, the reminder that she had given everything once and walked away with nothing but the act itself. And maybe that was the point. Sometimes survival is the only payment. Sometimes the truth is the only inheritance. The man in the gray suit lifted a hand. "Sergeant Cruz," he said. His eyes found her, sharp and dismissive all at once. "You've caused disruption, unwanted attention. That ends now. You will stand down, leave this base, and return to your station quietly." Effective immediately, the recruits gasped. Stanton took an involuntary step forward. Sir, she didn't. Private. Harris's bark cut him down, but not unkindly. His eyes flicked to Amelia. Don't let him speak. Don't let them use him. Amelia's heart drummed. Her watch ticked wrong, fighting to keep pace. She stepped forward instead. I won't leave, she said. Calm. Firm. The kind of tone that leaves no room for debate. Not until every recruit here has given their account. Not until the record exists. The man in gray chuckled softly as though humored by a child. Records burn. Paper burns. So do careers.